Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm talking about ISTPs. I have so much respect for ISTPs. When they are healthy, they're one of the types most worthy of respect. High levels of integrity, great at mentoring. Yeah, one of my favorite types. They're great to be around. So if I get through this and none of this seems like it's resonating, you could be mistyped. I think a lot of ISTPs may mistype as ISTJs because they are relatively organized, but it's kind of like an internal organization versus trying to organize people. ISTJs are trying to be the leader and organize people, whereas I think ISTPs have more of a self-leadership, which gives them that high sense of integrity. The tests are often one letter off in my experience, so you may want to look into the ESTP, the INTP, the ISFP, that's probably not likely, or the ISTJ. Basically, in the early 1900s, Carl Jung coined what are called cognitive functions. It's basically like how your brain works. And they've since hooked other types up to the EEG machine, and they find that certain personalities will rely on certain regions of the brain more than other types of the brain. And they kind of correspond to these cognitive functions. So after Carl Jung coined those, Myers and Briggs came along and they gave them names. So they said, if you use this region and this region, we call you the ISTP. If you use this region and this region, we call you the ESFJ. And so those cognitive functions, those regions have kind of been lost on the general public. So the way you figure that out, because it was Myers and Briggs only intended the names like ISFJ to be a code. So I'll show you how that breaks down. So your middle two letters are kind of the meat of it, the S and the T. So everyone's second letter is considered their perceiving letter. It's kind of like the glasses through which you view the world. When people go throughout their day, different people key in on different things. So for ISTPs, they're oriented on the sights and the smells and how things look. They're very oriented in the sensory environment. They feel like, is the shirt they're wearing, like, is that good quality? Is it a durable material? Everyone's third function is considered their judging function. It's how you make decisions, how you think should be. It's kind of your opinions. And so for ISTPs, it's kind of this internal logic verifier. You make decisions saying, I should be truthful, I should be logical, and it's kind of the standard that you hold yourself to. So since you're a P, what the P and J means at the very end, that last letter, Ps show the world their perceiving function. They show the world, they extrovert their perceiving function. So since your perceiving function is S, it means you extrovert that S. You're oriented toward the external, the extroverted senses, everything going on out there, not what's going on in here. That just automatically means you introvert your judging letter, which is thinking. So you're oriented toward your inner thoughts, not what everyone else tells you to do, but you're oriented toward your inner thoughts. And then what the I means out front is, since you're an introvert, you dominantly prioritize the introverted one. So your inner thoughts are kind of what's most important to you. And secondarily, what's important to you is kind of like what's going on in the sensory world. So your first cognitive function is introverted thinking. Your second cognitive function is extroverted sensing. And I do have definitions that go in more depth in other videos. In this video, I'm just going to kind of skim over it, but I do have a Myers-Briggs 101 playlist. So the way you find your third function, because every type dominantly uses like kind of like 4 regions. There are 8 total, but everyone kind of uses 4 dominantly, is you take the opposite of both letters. So if your second function is extroverted sensing, the opposite of extrovert is introverted, the opposite of sensing is intuition. So introverted intuition is your third function. And then your fourth function is the opposite of your first function. So since your first function is introverted thinking, the opposite of introverted is extroverted, the opposite of thinking is feeling. So your fourth function is extroverted feeling, which gives you a focus on the group's feelings as opposed to like your own. So your first function is introverted thinking, and everyone's first function tends to be like who they feel like they are. It's kind of their dominant strength. For an ISTP, introverted thinking gives them a real quiet strength. It makes them kind of constantly reevaluate their own beliefs, and they always want to be truthful and tell the precise, accurate truth. They don't want to exaggerate or misconstrue anything. They want to be accurate and precise in their inner beliefs, and so they hold themselves to high levels of truth and integrity. You know, what I love about ISTPs is if they're wrong, they readily admit they're wrong because they don't really attach any feelings to it. It's just like, oh yes, I was wrong. And they'll usually be like, oh yep, sorry, I was wrong. And I really appreciate that about them. And they have strong thoughts to the point where they've verified their thoughts so much that if you disagree with one of their thoughts, it's kind of hard to convince them. They can be very stubborn because, you know, they reevaluate their thoughts. They have a high level of integrity and truth. And so they don't just, believe things willy-nilly. This can make them very precise with tools. They can become very good with craftsmanship, good mechanics. They can be very technical into like tennis or bicycling. They really get into the technical side of their craft. It makes them kind of quiet and reserved, but very precise and very technical, specifically with the way that they use different tools. So their second function is extroverted sensing, and everyone's second function tends to be underutilized because, you're an introvert and your second function is extroverted, so you don't like really want to go there all the time. But it's your second function, so it really is important to use. It's that part that gets you into your body. I believe that introversion and extroversion are both needs. Kind of like food and water are both needs. You have a preference for one or the other. You might prefer introversion. But really, in your life, to have the most impact, you really need that extroversion to kind of balance you out. Introversion gives you that depth and that logical side of you, and you have thought things through, and it makes you a person of high integrity that's very respectable. And that extroversion broadcasts that, everyone. It's no use in being a high integrity person if you're a hermit and you never met anyone. You have to have impact on people, and you have to broadcast that and get that into the world. It just makes you an overall healthier person. It might not give you energy per se, but it makes you a healthier person in the long run, and ultimately gives you a more fulfilling life. So extroverted sensing is all oriented toward the external senses in the environment. So the sounds and the sights, and it makes you want to use your body. I know ISTPs that are like into fireworks or tennis or into fixing cars, or they're mechanics or welders. They love to use their body. So I find that they're often in fields where you use your body. I've seen firefighters, pilots, paramedics, EMTs, police officers, some sort of like hands-on field, because that really is your strength. And sometimes I think ISTPs feel awkward, or they feel like they're not good with people, but this extroverted sensing is really the spot that can help you in extroverted environments. Try to surround yourself in environments where maybe there are sports, or people are boating, or there are fireworks, or try to get yourself in environments where people are using their body, and I think that's where you'll be most comfortable kind of extroverting and being around people. I just want to say that I don't think ISTPs are awkward. I've heard several ISTPs say that they feel like they're awkward and they feel kind of uncomfortable in situations. But the more you get into your body, I think the better it is for ISTPs. So ISTP's third function is introverted intuition. And intuition is all about kind of what's not existing. It's kind of about the future and the what if and kind of your vision for the future. And it's introverted. It's all about your internal vision. And it's very disassociated from the body, because extroverted sensing and introverted intuition are direct opposites. So if extroverted sensing is all about high energy and using your body, introverted intuition is very dissociated from its body. It's living in the mind. It's not in the present moment. It's thinking about how do I think things are trending? How do I think the stock market is trending? Or how do I think my future is going to go? And it makes you kind of sit back, get out of your body, and think about the future. Now, in other types, that can be a strength, but in ISTPs, since it's in that third spot, it can be overused, and it's kind of a weakness. And the reason it's overused is because it's introverted. So by definition, it's kind of comfortable for you. But people's third function is kind of where they tend to go in arguments. So what can that can look like in ISTPs. I've heard a lot of ISTPs report that they shut down in arguments. They just become mute. They completely dissociate from their body. They just shut down. It's like they draw a blank, like all words leave their head. So that's kind of one area where it shows up. I've seen ISTPs be kind of like OCD. They need their environment to be just so. They cannot have anything bad in the environment happening, so everything has to be like just so in their house. It can lead them to be just very introverted, and they're a type that's kind of likely to be very isolated from people, or over time to maybe like let their bodies go, or over time to kind of get rid of all their physical hobbies that they once found so much enjoyment in, because extroverted sensing brings so much enjoyment to your life. And introverted intuition would just kind of dull you out. Introverted intuition is all about the future, and since it's in the back spot, it can make ISTPs kind of pessimistic toward the future. I've heard ISTPs talk about conspiracy theories. So if you're an ISTP and you ever hear yourself talking negatively about the future, you just might want to check it for a second and say, is this grounded in verifiable sensory information? Is what I'm saying, like, is it actually likely to happen? To get into introverted thinking and challenge your beliefs, because introverted thinking is so great at challenging its own beliefs. And extroverted sensing gets you in like the real world. Is this really happening right now? I heard several ISTPs and ESTPs predicting a civil war like years ago. And you're like, is it gonna happen? Like, should you really be predicting that there's gonna be a civil war this year? And it doesn't happen. Think back to all the future predictions you've made, ISTP, the negative ones. Think to the negative future predictions you've made, and have they come true? And do you have verifiable sensory information to say that they did come true? Or I'll hear ISTPs talk about kind of a chain of events. They're like, this is gonna happen, then this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. And they're kind of fans of buying into the snowball effect. If you lead with introverted intuition, you kind of understand that if even one of those variables changes slightly, that it's going to create a very different trajectory. And so if you find yourself constantly referencing the snowball effect, especially negatively, you're never referencing a positive snowball effect, you're only referencing a negative snowball effect, that's something to kind of watch out for. I've noticed it can be positive sometimes in ISTPs. I know an ISTP who's really into business books, and he has a business, and it's a nutrition business. He weightliftts a lot, and so it's all about being healthy, and I think that's great for an ISTP to have a business all about being healthy, and he gets into the technical side of weightlifting. And the introverted intuition gives him, it gives him a little bit of a sense of vision for what he wants his business to look like, and so he'll attend conferences for that. But notice it's in a positive way. So as long as you're looking toward the future in a positive way, then I think that's fine. But as soon as it gets pessimistic, that's where it really is a problem. As soon as it's dissociating you from your body and you're letting your body go and maybe have bad habits. I've heard of several ISTPs who eventually gave up alcohol because I've heard of several ISTPs say they'd have 3 beers every day, and they just felt bad about that. It didn't align with their integrity, and so they put it down. ISTP's fourth function is extroverted feeling. And everyone's fourth function is it's the direct opposite of your first one. So since you love your first function, it's kind of hard to go to your fourth function. But their fourth function is extroverted feeling. So it's all about the group's feelings. It's making sure that the group is harmonious. And people that lead with extroverted feeling will make sure that they get people's plate, and they will decorate their homes nicely and warmly. They tend to be kind of like the mom of the group, of the friend group, kind of taking care of everyone. And ISTPs just aren't really like that. They sometimes, I think when they're younger, have foot in the mouth issues because they just don't understand what's appropriate to say and what's not appropriate to say. And eventually they kind of learn. But I found that it's so sad because it teaches ISTPs along the way. They get the belief that they're awkward, and they've just been socially corrected so many times that they just feel awkward. And that makes me so sad when ISTPs feel like they're awkward. Extroverted feeling, you probably use it maybe 2% of the time, but if you could bump it up to 10% of the time, I think that would be good because it would make you a little bit more extroverted. So I think for what that would look like for an ISTP is just, especially in young ISTPs, communicating things in a kind way. I think introverted thinking loves to challenge beliefs, and when it's healthy, it's challenging its own beliefs. And then once you've challenged your own beliefs for 40 years and become a person with high integrity and is highly respectable, then you can kind of work on mentoring other people and challenging other people's beliefs and doing it in a very harmonious way. You communicate a hard truth in a way that people are willing to hear because you've said it in a nice way, in a kind way, and in a way that you can tell is in the other person's best interest. But I think sometimes young ISTPs really will just bulldoze people, and they just argue for the sake of arguing, and they sometimes don't have a leg to stand on. There'll be holes in their argument, but you just can't get them to see it because they're only oriented on their inner thoughts. They won't listen to anyone else, just only their inner thoughts, and they're the only ones that are right, and they can be kind of know-it-alls. When you get into extroverted feeling, I think the ISTPs, for the most part, unless they're really unhealthy, they have good beliefs and they see situations clearly and from a logical perspective, and I would love to hear their perspective on things as long as they have a little bit of that extroverted feeling to say it in a nice way. And most ISTPs do. The way ISTPs communicate things is so kind. One thing that I feel for female ISTPs, because I think the ISTP and the ESTP are some of the most masculine seeming personalities. Any female thinkers in general, but I could imagine that if you're a female STP, the messaging has been, do not get into introverted thinking, do not be logical. Also, I feel like women aren't as much encouraged to be in their bodies. I've heard of ISTP and ESTP women playing football, and it just kind of sucks. There are not a lot of female football teams, so you're playing football with the guys, and then people look down on you, but it's those are your strengths, to be technically excellent with your body. That's the STP's strengths. And so it just sucks when maybe your favorite sports aren't offered to women. And so I could imagine that for ISTP women, they've really gotten to extroverted feeling. I could imagine ISTP women have extroverted feeling developed, and maybe a little bit. I'd imagine the men probably less so have extroverted feeling developed because culture really encourages women to be extroverted feeling and men to be introverted thinking. I can't think of culture really emphasizing in men to get this person's plate or compliment this person's outfit or, just ways to be nice and build harmony. That's not really as much encouraged in men. So I could imagine men may need to work on extroverted feeling a little bit more. Whereas women ISTPs probably have to work on extroverted sensing a little bit more. So yeah, the vibe I get from ISTPs is shopping at REI, camping, having really sturdy clothes, making sure, they got good walking shoes. They might have a shop in their house. Like really good with tools, probably good, maybe good with cars, good technically with sports, good at working with their body. Repairing things. They just have a natural gift for repairing things. I don't know how that happens. Like if something's broken, they'll tinker around with it and they figure out how to fix things. And to me, I don't know how you do that. I had several like physics projects in school. We had to make like a mousetrap car, an egg drop project, like a toothpick bridge, a popsicle roller coaster. Some of these more like hands-on projects. And my dad's an ISTP and he helped me with them. And he just knows. I just don't know how. I'm amazed at ISTPs. Like, how do you just know how to fix things with the minimal amount of materials? You can make something incredibly sturdy. I don't know how you do that. So I think that's great for ISTPs to get into, repairing things and fixing things. I knew one ISTP. This is where introverted intuition comes in a little bit in a good way, because introverted intuition is looking toward the future and strategy and what's this other person thinking about this. And she would play soccer and she would like kick to the goalie. I have no idea what that's called, but someone's standing somewhere, everyone's waiting, and they're kicking to the goalie. Don't know. Anyways, but apparently what people will do is the goalie will look at her hips, and whichever way her hips are going, that's where the goalie thinks the ball's going to go. And so she would fake them out. She knew how to like orient her hips the opposite way that the ball was going to go. So the goalie would always go the wrong way and she would fake them out. And she would say, she's like, it only works once in a game, but it works that one time. And that's a way that I think ISTPs can use introverted intuition in a good way. It's like in a strategizing way. Like, how can I position my body? Also in a good way, you can see like, where's this ball gonna go in a sport? But I know ISTPs are really kind. I think that they've just been beat over the head, maybe with you're not harmonious enough or something, that they apologize a lot, or at least the ones I know. They're like, I'm so sorry if I've offended you, if I've said something. And they've never offended me, but they apologize a lot. And I just feel bad, because that probably means that they've had some messaging that they're not harmonious enough or appropriate enough, or this isn't the appropriate etiquette to use in this situation. And so I just feel bad for them on that front. But I mean, their unique gift to the world is I have seen some incredible ISTP mentors. I mean, they're the type of people that want to have, I knew a guy who wanted to have an outdoor camp for young boys. And so he would like mentor them while they're doing all this outdoor stuff, and the idea was you would teach them the outdoorsy extroverted sensing things at the same time that you're instilling integrity and this high level of respectability in them. I think that's amazing. They check themselves and they get in their body and they teach other people to do the same. And I think ISTPs are great mentors of like any personality type. I think especially young ESTPs do well under some ISTPs leadership. I mean, they can straighten them out. Sometimes ESTPs are a little squirrely. You as an ISTP, you have a lot to offer. And if you have limiting beliefs, like you are not too quiet or too awkward or too anything, like there is nothing like deficient about you. You are incredibly skilled. You are incredibly smart, an incredibly skilled craftsman. And you are the most respectable personality, in my opinion. You deserve to be seen with the most integrity. You have such high integrity that anyone would be lucky to be in a relationship with you. They would be lucky to be mentored by you. And I think all the world is asking for from ISTPs is just to get out there and show us more of you, just to get out of your shell a little bit. That is the only critique that I have of ISTPs, is just get out there. And if maybe someone invites you to an event and with introverted intuition you say, oh, this is not going to be a fun event, this is not going to go well, this is how this is going to happen. Try to challenge that, because you need to look at the future optimistically and just live in the present. You don't have to worry about the future will hold. Just live in an optimistic now. So I challenge you, get into your body as much as you can, be high energy. Don't procrastinate. I think sometimes extroverted sensing is high energy and it'll just get things done now. So don't put off projects if you need to. Don't put off conversations if you need to. Really get into action. If you're in an argument, really try to stay present, stay grounded, stay in your physical body. Try to continue communicating and not shut down. Yeah, just get yourself in as many high energy environments as you can. That's really good for you and really stretching for you, and environments that use your body and get you immersed in the present moment. I think those are great times for you. Don't underestimate your intelligence. I've also heard ISTPs, this just like breaks my heart, but I have heard ISTPs disparage themselves because they don't have high levels of education. And that makes me so sad, because you have just so much bodily kinesthetic intelligence and you're not going to learn that at school. The skills that you are interested in are not going to be developed at school. So I can understand why ISTPs do not continue into higher education, because it's just not designed for you. It doesn't mean you're dumb. It just means the education system is dumb for not contributing to these great people that have these amazing skill sets. And the school system is just, way too narrow-minded and way too focused on a certain personality. So I really feel for the ISTPs and the ESTPs in school. You are intelligent. You are highly intelligent. You reevaluate beliefs. You understand logical arguments, and amazingly kinesthetically intelligent. I mean, I just cannot explain enough, how amazing ISTPs are at repairing things. I cannot wrap my brain around it. I cannot repair things the way ISTPs can repair things. My dad came down to visit me. He's an ISTP, and I had like this handle that was kind of broken, and I have no tools down here. I have no tools. And he just jimmy rigged stuff. He used toothpicks, and it's so sturdy. I still feel it all the time. It's so sturdy. Like, how did you fix this with toothpicks? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But it's just amazing how ISTPs can do that. I respect you so much, and I just encourage you to get more out of your shell and mentor people. So thanks so much for watching. I have an Instagram account where I post kind of more bite-sized content if you're interested in any of that. And yeah, I have a Myers-Briggs 101 playlist, some cognitive function videos if you're interested in more in-depth explanations. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.